This is BBC World. Now from Singapore, Asia Business Report.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you with us for this Thursday edition of the Asia Business Report, live on BBC World. It's the 29th of September, 2005. I'm Rico Hizon. We begin with trade ministers from the Association of Southeast Asian Countries in Laos for their annual summit. The meeting focuses on the group's goal of forming an economic bloc by the year 2020. Economic cooperation amongst the 10 ASEAN members is increasingly vital as the region tries to compete and complement the rising power of China and India. Also on the agenda, a series of trade negotiations among ASEAN members with major trading partners, including Japan. For more now on the ASEAN meetings, we're joined in our studios by Simon Littlewood. He's the president of Asia Now. The biggest discussion point should be the abolishing of tariffs of 11 priority areas among the ASEAN countries, particularly in autos, fisheries, electronics. It should have been implemented today, but it's being moved to 2007, and they're just in preliminary negotiations. Will it ever happen? It's just 15 months away.
Well, these things have a history of being delayed somewhat, but let's be clear, for many of these items, there's already been a partial abolition of tariffs, particularly in, for example, auto. But you know, one of the challenges here is that even when agreements at an ASEAN level have been reached, often individual countries that have felt political pressure at home as a result of agreeing to tariff reductions have then implemented other measures domestically in order to protect themselves to some extent from this. So it's a very slow process.
Why can't the ASEAN countries get their act together? Instead of abolishing all tariffs by 2010, which was an earlier plan, it's now been moved to 2020. What do they need to get down to business and solve their differences?
Well, that's partly a political question, Rico, because individual governments in individual countries are very concerned for political reasons to maintain the success of individual industries, and it's always a calculation. Even major nations that espouse free trade in theory, as we've seen recently, are always looking for advantage. And it's not clear, particularly for the poorer members of ASEAN, that there is going to be massive advantage in abolishing tariffs. Typically, there are going to be winners and losers.
But it seems liberalization is a moving target. I mean, just playing devil's advocate, is there a possibility it will never happen?
I hadn't considered that. I think it is happening slowly, but you're quite right. The 11 products that are currently the main subject of discussion were due to have been fully deregulated by 2005. That's got put back to 2007. We're now in September 2005, and they're saying they're having preliminary discussions. That doesn't augur particularly well for having all these items fully deregulated.
And it seems individual countries in Southeast Asia are more successful in closing free trade arrangements individually.
Yeah, you've got two things going on here. I mean, you've got the broader discussions between three of the other large nations, China, Japan, Korea, and India, and ASEAN on free trade agreements. You've got the discussions within ASEAN itself. Within ASEAN itself, I think you're likely to see, particularly when the liberalisation of services is discussed, you're likely to see the emergence of sort of two essential groupings, much as you have done in Europe, because the liberalisation of financial services, which, for example, is very important to trading partners like Japan, is likely to go ahead between Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, but probably not between any of the other countries who are too vulnerable. So I think what will happen as frustration grows is that you'll see start to see a twin track process. Yeah.
A major issue also here: higher fuel prices impacting ASEAN economies.
Yes, that's very difficult. I mean, everybody's felt this, but of course, emerging economies are generally have less opportunity to deal with this because they're very heavily dependent on fuel, particularly, for example, in the agricultural sector, where most economies, including European ones, are traditionally subsidised. Yeah.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Thank you very much. See you again soon. Sam Littlewood from Asia Now. Thanks for joining us in the Asia Business Report. The news continues on BBC World. I'm Rico Hizon. Good morning.